All right, joining us today, Aaron Bruno of AWOLNATION. Man, how you doing today?
I'm good. You know what? I'm jealous because you have the fancy Abbey Road poster in the back, and I just got some wood up here around me. I'm just existing with the shirt on. So next time I'll have like a Led Zeppelin poster in the background.
Well, I'm jealous because you could actually play something from Abbey Road in front of fans, and I just have to sit here and watch.
I'm not so sure about that, but thank you for saying so.
At some point. Do me a favor. Let's go back 10 years. Megalithic Symphony comes out. As a matter of fact, let's take it back 1 year prior, because what was unique about this album was your biggest hit, Sail, was released as an EP beforehand.
Sure.
Now, one, did you know that you had an immediate hit with Sail?
No way. That Sail was just a song I wrote, and I thought, well, I'll take you back a little bit briefly. I was in a couple bands before that were both signed and both had all the ambition and hope in the world, and they didn't work out. Both bands broke up. So AWOLNATION was a new project I had created just to be able to express myself and finally make music that had no rules and could be my own. So I could look in the mirror at the end of the day and say, hey, you did your best and it failed, and that's okay. And couldn't point the finger at anyone else, right? So I think that it was just the first time I had an opportunity to be completely free without any boundaries. And
well, you talk about those boundaries for a second, because those prior bands you were in were more punk genre, and you completely departed from that in forming AWOLNATION.
Well, I had kind of covered the whole spectrum in a lot of ways. I was in a hardcore band, I was in a punk band at 15, then a hardcore band, then a more melodic rock band, and then kind of a 70s almost disco throwback band in Under the Influence of Giants, it was called. And so by the time I started AWOL, I thought, now seems like a good time to blend all of these genres of music I like so much and do my own thing. And hey, no one's going to hear it anyway, so I may as well do something ridiculous, right? And here we are 10 years later talking about this.
Well, like a lot of people have tried to attempt to try and sort of categorize your style with AWOLNATION as sort of, and they ask you that question, and you're like, oh, I like to leave it up to the fans. And I was listening to it, and I'm fairly new to the material, but I wanted to sort of attempt to try and classify it. And I was thinking like alternative synth, pop, rock, punk. But when I heard you guys live, it was kind of different. Like I went from the album, like Megalithic Symphony, to watching you guys live in Cincinnati 2019, which was like the energy that transferred over in your live sort of set was just spellbinding, almost compared to the album. And
right.
I was getting Kurt Cobain, because a lot of the sort of lyric lines like repeat over themselves. Like he likes to really sort of drive that nail home, like by repeating certain phrases. And I was thinking it's almost been produced by Prince when I was hearing the album. I didn't get that live, but when I was hearing the album, I got that. Any sort of thoughts on
that? Thank you. The only thoughts I have really, you just brought up two of my favorite artists. And I think with the live record, with the recorded album, that's a time capsule and a moment, and you try your best to make the song seem as relatable or as good as you can make it sound. And then when you go to play these songs live for an audience, adrenaline kicks in, and you've had time to live with the song and think of ways that it could even be better or enhanced for the live experience. I think the last thing any of us want to see is just the recorded version with people on stage. So we always want to take it to another level. And also the guys in my band, hard work, pay off, and show off. And I get on my shoulders in a lot of ways. But thank you for saying those really kind words, for sure.
Aaron, when we go back to Sail, we had mentioned that it was released as an EP before the Megalithic Symphony album. At what point did you realize you had a hit with Sail? And because Sail was constructed in a way in which you knew it would somewhat be a catchy song, it was a catchy song to the ear, was there an additional pressure writing the additional material for Megalithic Symphony?
When I was writing all the songs for Megalithic Symphony, I never thought Sail would be a single necessarily. Sail became a single only because we thought it would be important to release an EP first. And a little fact that a lot of people don't know is that a song called Burn It Down was actually the single. It was supposed to be the single.
That's the opening track.
Yeah, and so somewhere along the line, a gentleman by the name of Toby Ryan in Austin, Texas, decided to play Sail instead because he just had a feeling that at the very least it would be a weird thing to do, and he did that. And I remember thinking, wow. And at the time there was no radio edit, so I think it was over 5 minutes long. And I thought, wow, that's so cool. I'll be on the radio for 5 minutes just once. How cool is that? You know, with a song that I was really proud of. And at the very least, I was excited to show my friends and my brother and family members because I thought it was a cool song. But by no means did I think that it would become the phenomenon that it became.
I mean, that song in particular, I mean, that album was phenomenal, but that song in particular, that changed your life.
It did. And it remains that way. You know, it continues to grow in new ways. And I don't know what to do with that information. You know, it's still a very shocking, humbling, and hilarious thing that's happened. You know, I mean, most people know that song. You know, and I'll tell you that there was so much failure leading up to this point that it's almost hard to recognize or compartmentalize in a lot of ways. So I'm very grateful, to say the least.
Do me a favor and take me back to your earliest influences. I mean, you talk about how you had many incarnations of different bands, experimented with different genres, but what did you grow up with? What was your earliest recollection of music?
A lot of pop music in the 80s with my mom, you know, driving me to school and Little League practice. And so that would be a lot of Prince, Michael Jackson, Madonna, George Michael was huge for me. And then my older brother came to live with me. We had different moms. He came to live with my side of the family when I was going into 4th grade, and he was going to be a freshman in high school. So all of a sudden I had this cool older brother to look up to, and he brought with him a bunch of records. He brought rare hip hop vinyl. And this was before, you know, Vanilla Ice and the Beastie Boys and MC Hammer kicked the door into the mainstream, you know, so it was harder to find. So we were listening to really good, you know, this is when Public Enemy was still underground, basically.
Like NWA and
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So I got to steal and listen to his vinyl when he wasn't home, and that was a huge influence to me because something about the beats were, to me, superior than any rock music. And so I've always loved, I've always been searching and in love with a certain kind of groove that does something to me. And so that was a big influence. And then, of course, discovering Nirvana, you know, going full circle to the previous question, that changed everything for me, because here was a guy that was, you know, playing almost nursery rhymes with very relatable lyrics, at least to me at the time, because I was at a very impressionable age, you know, going into high school and going through having a lot of different hormones at the age of 13 through 15, right? And everything's changing, and you know, high school, all that, getting bullied, you know, the whole thing. And so Nirvana was everything. Nirvana was like the gospel to me, you know. And so that actually got me excited to pick up my guitar and at the very least try to learn how to play Nirvana songs in my bedroom. You know, never planning on sharing that with anyone. And it took a long time before I ever sang in front of anyone.
I'm guessing that your favorite Nirvana album would be Bleach, maybe?
Yeah, that's what I was going with.
No,
Incesticide.
Heavier? It's a little heavier, maybe?
No, not Bleach, because Dave Grohl didn't play on Bleach. And Dave Grohl was so superior as a drummer that, you know, In Utero was huge. Incesticide was huge, of course. I mean, everybody knows Smells Like Teen Spirit, but the Unplugged album, I would say, of all of them, even though, you know, that's not an album of original songs, but all the covers they did, that was probably the most impactful of all of the Nirvana
It
albums
definitely
to me.
feels like another album, doesn't it?
That
Like,
Lead Belly cover was insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've talked to that song quite a bit, but that song haunted me for months and months and months, you know, because remember back then when a song came out on MTV
How do you
Unplugged,
sleep last night, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was just talking to Matt Pinfield about this, actually. I think he was there at the recording, and he and I just did an interview for this 10-year anniversary. And we were talking about Nirvana, and you know, it's devastating that we didn't get to hear more songs from Kurt. And, you know, last I heard, he was going to do an album with Michael Stipe from REM, and how cool would that have been, you know?
Yeah.
But it's interesting because, you know, Nirvana is known for their power and aggression in a lot of ways, but the sensitivity is really what got me.
Yeah. Did you ever hear his cover of a Beatles song, "And I Love Her," on that release that came out a few years back?
Yeah.
Were you ever like a Beatles fan yourself?
Of course. You can't be a true music lover without going through your own sort of schooling system of knowing every Beatles song, you know, from rarities to every album front to end. And the Beatles are kind of, for me, it's so intense to me that I'll take breaks. So right now I'm currently off. So I probably won't listen to a Beatles album or song for at least another year, maybe longer, and then I'll go through the whole thing again. And that's how it goes.
When you come back, it's like it's familiar to you, but it's just an experience that you almost need to have. Almost.
Yeah,
like,
everybody.
A couple of years, but yeah.
You know, that's so funny, Aaron. That's exactly how I listen to him too. It's like I'll go on the journey and I'll be like, I don't want this to end. I have to stop right now so I can continue it again later.
Yeah. You don't want to OD on the Beatles because it's easy to do, you know. And same with Nirvana, and same with Radiohead's OK Computer. You know, I'll go through phases where I just don't listen to it for a while, and then I'll revisit it. Or any of these albums that changed my life, you know, or any of the punk rock music or hardcore music. It's nice to take a break and try to discover new music. I'm constantly trying to find a song that I've never heard before. And it doesn't mean to be a new artist or a new song. It's just something that I haven't heard before. And that's really, really important for me to keep growing.
It's so interesting to hear your influences, what you grew up listening to, what you were exposed to, because AWOLNATION is really comprised of it all. I mean, we've got electronic synthesized beats, we've got rock and roll, we've got pop. Your signature screaming, I mean, now I know that comes straight from Kurt Cobain.
Yeah, it's probably some sort of combination of that and maybe Zach De La Rocha from Rage and a lot of hardcore singers that I love, you know, that are less known as well, and metal singers. And, you know, I was just talking to another singer friend of mine about this the other day, and I'm not a traditional, you know, singer like an American Idol kind of individual, right? And mostly I'm just trying to survive when I'm singing, you know, and try to find the best way to service the song idea rather than necessarily be a great singer, you know what I mean? And within that comfort zone, then it's at least authentic. But when you're trying to sing like someone else or try to do something that doesn't come natural, then I think that it comes across as something that people can't believe in. So I've always tried to be, at the very least, as honest as I can with the vocals I record.
So on the sort of screaming, sort of coming from that sort of screaming vibe, but also sort of singing as well, like kind of apart from the screaming. When it comes to, say, Lennon and McCartney, you've got Lennon's sort of shredded asphalt sort of throaty scream, right? Which he kind of developed from Twist and Shout. And then you've got Paul later on with I've Got a Feeling, where he's got that sort of alpha yell. And it's almost like they kind of grew together, sort of trying to outdo each other with his sort of macho sort of, you know. Which sort of one would you prefer voice-wise? Like, who do you reckon's got the better scream?
John seems more genuine to me, but Paul is such a good singer. Paul is probably a better singer pound for pound, but John's that's like saying, who do you love more, your mom or your dad? I can't really answer it, but I could go, you know, my wife would say John Lennon 100%. We always talk about this. I said, yeah, I know, but like put on Paul McCartney Ram right now, and let's say that you still feel
that's
that
a
way,
masterpiece.
It's a hard thing to. I reserve the right to not answer the question, but I could argue either side. I really could.
You've done cover songs before. One in particular, you collaborated with 21 Pilots for "Hey Jude."
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, we did. Tyler left me a voicemail saying, "Hey, when we do this tour, I want to do Hey Jude as a cover. Are you in?" I said, "Of course," but reluctantly, because that's sort of like, you don't cover Stairway to Heaven, and you don't ever attempt Hotel California, and you certainly don't try Hey Jude, right? But we did it, and it was pretty easy because, it wasn't easy. I know the song so well that I wasn't super worried about it. And I thought at the very least, I won't be the person to mess this up. And luckily, it went over just fine. He's a great singer and he's a good piano player too. So he was wonderful.
So getting back to Megalithic Symphony now, it's the 10-year anniversary. You've put out an additional copy of this. What's the difference between the 10-year anniversary edition compared to the original edition from 2011?
Well, we saw it as an opportunity to release a bunch, I don't know if I'd call them B-sides or bonus songs that period. And so we thought it was a good opportunity to release these songs. One song in particular is called Cannibals. And it was a song that I actually played at maybe 3 or 4 of the shows early on. And some fans remember that song and they've been asking for years, when are you going to release Cannibals, over and over? And I thought, well, what better time than now? So we did it. And so little reasons like that, mostly this is for the fans that were there day one, and hopefully any fans we've gained along the way appreciate it too. But I'll never forget those early days when it felt like we, some of these smaller shows I was so grateful to even sell out, a small venue of 50 people or 100 people or something like that, and people are going nuts and feeling like you're part of this new sort of underground family. And I still remember all these people by name. And, so mostly this anniversary package was catered towards them, or at least I had them in mind in a lot of ways. Because then, when you're younger, even with Nirvana, going full circle, this became a Nirvana interview, of course, but going full circle with Nirvana, like I remember loving them very much. And then certain people listening to them too, and it kind of ruining, that discovery. I felt like they were my best friends. And then all of a sudden, that one guy that picked on me or whatever was also rocking Smells Like Teen Spirit in the parking lot. I'm like, damn, it's over, And I think Kurt struggled with that too. I think he looked out into the audience at one point and realized that he was playing for the same people who picked on him, and it bothered him a lot.
Well, on that note, does it ever bother you that, you're talking about the purists, you're talking about your fans from day one, and then with the popularity of Sail, gaining those additional fans? Was there anything there that bothered you?
No way. I mean, at the same time, maybe when I was younger, and less mature, I would have felt that way. But I think that music is for everyone. And if music can help someone, I mean, what a great thing, because there's a lot of ways that are recommended by professionals to help us that may or may not be actually helpful. And I think music is one thing we can all agree on is a very natural way to, at the very least, lift our spirits. And sometimes when you hear a sad song, full circle back to the Beatles, it can make you feel better. And it certainly does for me. And I think it does for you guys too. And so, Sail is kind of a sad song. And it's, along the years, I've met so many people that that song, and I struggle to even say this, but that it's, it's helped people, to say the least. And it's really mind blowing.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because some people that listen to music, if they listen to, say, sad music or depressing music, they actually feel happier because they can relate to it.
Yeah.
And others sort of react and go, no, I can't do that. I always have to hear something positive to get me out of it. And I liken it to like a city. Like if you go to a city with lots of people, you might feel really alone. But other people, if they go to a city, they actually feel like they're a part of something really big. And it's just a very sort of subjective experience. And some people they like cities, some people don't. And I liken that to sort of music as well. I noticed you had like a Grace tattoo on the side on that concert that I watched, and it was a font of Jeff Buckley's Grace, I think.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah, it is.
You're a big fan of
that record.
yeah?
Sort of. I remember singing really high at a younger age, and my friends teasing me for that. And because I love Prince so much and Michael Jackson, so I'd sing in my falsetto and sing really high. And I sang a lot of Cyndi Lauper songs, and I could only hit those notes by singing in my falsetto and singing really high, right? So Prince's Kiss, that song Kiss, like I would just sing that constantly over and over with my mom, and my buddies would make fun of me for that. And then when I heard Jeff Buckley's Grace, I realized how it gave confirmation to me that it's okay to sing that high in a lot of ways. And so that's why I got the tattoo, and I was just head over heels in love with that album, Have you ever heard his father, Tim? Of course, yeah.
Man, like I remember being a Jeff Buckley fan, and then my uncle showing me, like this is his dad, I was like, I had no idea.
Yeah, really tragic, really tragic.
Away.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah. We have some of his stuff on vinyl here, and really tragic family, but Grace was so important to me. His cover of Hallelujah, obviously, is I'm not gonna ever say that a cover version is better than the original, because that's an unfair thing to say, but if there ever was a case that is true, it would be this probably. And I'm not saying it's better, but it's pretty close. And oh my God, when I heard that song,
I got to ask you this. I know we're running out of time. Sorry, Doug. I know you probably got a question, but I went on to Facebook to try and find out a little bit more about you. And months ago, you said that you were adopting dogs, and that you had these dogs called Sally and Billy.
Yeah.
And I almost laughed because did you know there's a John Lennon song called Sally and Billy?
I didn't actually know that. Is it a good song?
He never released it because it was like a demo that he was working on.
Oh, wow.
And it's like on his lost Lennon tapes. And it's called Sally and Billy.
So, yeah, we were supposed to be friends. So that's what you're trying to tell me.
Seriously, it was this. So finally, Aaron, when you do perform Megalithic Symphony live for the live stream, are you going to include these additional tracks?
That is an unknown possibility right now. I don't know. Cannibals would be the one song that we would probably do that would make the most sense. But more importantly, I'm just trying to survive playing these other songs and not messing them up. The good news is that we've played most of this record over the last 10 years, almost on every tour and every show. So there's only 3 songs that we needed that were a little rusty, but they feel fine. And these guys are so good that at the very worst, I won't be great, but they'll be fine, So,
no, you're pretty good, man. I saw your vocal. You were hitting some of those high notes in this concert I was watching, and I was impressed. I was like, no, you're able to get that range. And that band you've got is like, that drummer is so solid. And the guitarist, he almost sounds like Hendrix being sort of moved into a sort of Led Zeppelin mode. Just amazing musicians.
Yeah, well, again, I'm lucky to have these guys. Isaac's my favorite drummer, and Zach's my favorite guitar player. And his dad was the first drummer of the Chili Peppers. His name is Jack Irons.
Oh,
and
dude!
Wow.
So he also played drums in Pearl Jam.
I was gonna say he discovered Eddie Vedder on a surfboard too.
Exactly. Yeah. And he was in the band 11. So he's a great drummer. So Zach comes from this bloodline of greatness. So he just Zach's also a great drummer. And so I'm just surrounded. My keyboard player Dan's incredible. I don't even know our bass player Mark really, but I love him to death. And so I'm just very, very lucky that I'm finally around this, I wouldn't call it a super group, but I feel like these guys are some of the greatest, musicians I've ever seen on stage.
And when we're ready for it, we're ready to get back out on tour and just kill it, huh?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. We'll see what happens.
Well, Aaron, thank you for joining us today. Don't forget AWOLNATION Megalithic Symphony 10-year anniversary out now, and the live stream cover-to-cover performance from Aaron Bruno himself with the AWOLNATION, April 17th. Aaron, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.